the Nelk Boys. Now these boys have been the GOAT since the beginning, since they started. Why? Because they weren't even getting paid off YouTube. They were getting paid off their merch. That's how strong their fan base was. Now, where did they start it from? They started from living in their fans' houses, literally going city by city, going to college parties, getting drunk, doing crazy things. That's how they really started off. And then, guess what? At the same time, they were building a crew of YouTubers, small YouTubers that catch SteveWillDoIt when he was very young. And then guess who SteveWillDoIt brought on? He brought on Bradley Martin, guys like 905. But everything great always comes to an end. So guess what happened? Jesse got into a situation with the law where he had to go to court. And at this point, Jesse was shitting his fucking pants for a prank that they did. Now, even though Jesse wasn't a big part of the group, just because they already built a big group like Steve, Bradley Martin, 905, they already had a big group. So Jesse leaving wasn't a big deal. And at the same time, their merch was growing. So they needed somebody to manage their merch just because of how big it was growing. And guess what? Jesse took over it. Now, Jesse did appear here and there in videos, but not as much and not in the wild things and the pranks that they were doing. So Jesse wasn't just the only teammate that really affected the team. It was also 905, an editor that they have. Him leaving wasn't forced. It wasn't forced. It was a choice by every single Nelk team member. Why? Because of his lack of commitment. Kyle actually even brought up a story of when he came into 905's room and he seen him watching WWE highlights instead of editing. And I understand. I mean, if my brother didn't help me with the videos, I'll probably tell him to fuck off as well. So again, 905, not a big member of the Nelk team that left. They didn't make a really big impact because again, they had Bradley Martin, they had SteveWillDoIt. And at this point, they brought on Salim as well. So what else happened? At this point, they were at their peak. They were going to Las Vegas casinos, buying cars, buying watches for their editors, for their cameraman. They were on top. And then SteveWillDoIt made a big mistake. He was getting sponsored by this gambling website in which on accident he put the gambling website on his description. And again, YouTube does not allow this. I kind of think that it was unfair to ban him considering the fact that it was an accident and considering the fact that what happened in the present time with Speed showing his private part in front of 15-year-olds. But then again, I'm not YouTube's guideline or in their team. So they banned SteveWillDoIt, not only his YouTube channel, but even appearing on the Nelk team, on the Nelk channel. Now this was a big deal for Nelk, just for the simple fact that Steve actually brought in a big group of celebrities, rappers like 6ix9ine, UFC fighters like Sean O'Malley, guys like Dana White. He used to bring this fan base, these celebrities into the Nelk content. And again, SteveWillDoIt was almost like the Sway Lee from Ray Sherman. He was almost like 70% of the Nelk team. So when he got banned, it took a big toll on the Nelk team.
We obviously know that Nelk isn't going to be what it was before. The crazy pranks, them going in public, screaming in people's ears, is not going to be the same. Obviously, their new content, they still post, when they meet up with Sean O'Malley, when they meet up with Hasbullah. It's good content, and yeah, they're still funny, but it's not the content that we wanted. It's not the content that the Nelk Boy fans want. We want the old content, and they're actually being funny. They go into Bradley Martin's gym, they're trolling Bradley Martin. Like, this was the old good content, and they were more consistent with it. But at the same time, we can't blame them considering the fact that they have a brand to run. They have Happy Dad. They have a Nelk podcast. They have a lot of things to focus on. So we can't expect them to, upload the same amount of quantity of videos, the same amount of quantity of pranks. Because back then it was more focusing on pranks. It was more focusing on creating content. But now that they have a podcast and they have a brand and they have people working behind the brand of Nelk, obviously getting the merch, obviously getting the Happy Dad. So they have a lot of things to focus on, and there's a lot of toll and it's a lot of stress on Nelk. So in the end, is this actually the end of Nelk? Well, let's look at financially. Financially, no, it's not the end of Nelk. If anything, they're at the best position that they ever been. You see SteveWillDoIt, he has a bunch of cars, most of them having Happy Dad on the side of them. So it goes to show that if he has the money to buy these cars and customize them by West Coast Customs, then they're obviously doing good with the brand Happy Dad. And you see them with a bunch of chains. You see them going to UFC events. So financially wise, I don't think they're in big trouble. But I think based off the fans, based off what the fans want, yes, it is the end of Nelk. Yes, it is the end of the era of pranks. The era of pranks and the era of trolling people isn't going to be there anymore. The Zoom trolling, the college trolling, all these other things is the end, and I don't think we're ever going to see that type of content anymore. So maybe the creation of Nelk is done by financially, and all the businesses that they're running and what they're currently doing isn't dead, and if anything, they have so much to improve.